Get your hands on a Gin and Tonic G&T box. Enter the promo code BLACKINK for an exclusive 10% discount on your order. Gin and Tonic, sustainable urban gin.
Hi Toussaint, thank you for joining us on Black Ink Cinema podcast. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And before we get into your very interesting film choice, we just want to get to know a little bit about you.
feel like already that shade being thrown on that. Very interesting.
No, it was
such an interesting film choice from you, Toussaint. God, we don't get many interesting ones like. And that's how most people describe my comedy as well. Yes, it was very interesting. I'm not sure if it was funny, but it was interesting.
This is legit the first time I've meant interesting within its real context of interesting. Like I had never come across this movie before. I literally was like, I thought I was well versed in the world of film. How did I miss this one? So that's why I say it's interesting.
Okay.
The other
Thank you for clearing that up.
You will know when I'm throwing shade. You will know. Tell us of your journey into comedy.
Sure. So I started a few years ago, so probably around about kind of 2016, and kind of dipped in and swiftly dipped out again. It was great, but it was also like incredibly scary as well. And I kind of remember feeling like, God, this is like amazing, but also like just terrifying as well. And I didn't feel like at the time when I had first kind of started, I was like, I could have this in my life. Kind of, it just felt like quite a thing to be doing and stuff like that. So I think once you do it and you kind of get that bug that you do want to do it again, like kind of there's just nothing else like it in terms of kind of being on stage and that kind of adrenaline and the kind of excitement that comes out of being able to express yourself in such a kind of creative way. And when things kind of land that kind of come from your own head and you're thinking like, no one's going to get this. This is so weird. But, you are able to, connect with some people that you don't know, just strangers, and make them laugh. It is a really, it's a really lovely feeling and stuff like that. So I think kind of 2018 where I was like, okay, I'm doing this pretty much all the time. It's like the only thing I'm doing. So maybe actually, kind of being honest with myself, that is something that I do kind of really want to do. And being a bit more, I guess, serious about it in some respects and stuff like that. And then, so it's kind of, I'd entered like, when you start out, there are kind of like new kind of comedy competitions and all those kind of things, like national competitions and stuff like that, which kind of gives you kind of good experience and just gigs and stuff. And I got to the finals of quite a few of those, like 2018 to 2019, 2020. I mean, I don't know where to start with 2020. Yeah, then 2020 happened. Yeah, it's been a roller coaster of a ride. In amongst all the madness, I did a thing for the BBC, a live kind of stand-up show, which was really cool, kind of showcasing new talent. That's me, really. Kind of still fairly new, I guess, say kind of up and coming stand-up.
I often say it, like I find comedians one of the bravest people, because to stand up there and to make people laugh is like the hardest thing ever. Like I would probably just cry. I'll like crack the first joke and no one will laugh, and then it will be okay, that's it, I tried. and it will be done. So I commend you totally. Is there anything? Oh, you're welcome. Having a little snoop on your Instagram, I do love your Jaheim Wicks videos.
Okay. Yeah.
Clearly see the inspiration. I mean, that's my type of yoga. I was like, yes, this I'm down for. All right. Like light work, lying down.
Do you have a cat?
No, I don't have a cat.
So you're just lonely.
Just lonely.
For the listeners, the video is entitled "Yoga for Cat Owners or Lonely People." I'm not just insulting Rachel's lifestyle.
So on top of that, I'm that sad I don't even have a cat.
You might want maybe get a cat. Do you know what I mean?
I'm probably more of like a dog person than a cat.
Okay.
But then again, I've always wanted to get a turtle, so a tortoise, should I say? So I'm neither of those.
That's a curveball. What makes you want to get a turtle?
I just have always found them fugly, like, cute, but not so cute. They're low maintenance, bit of grass, bit of hosing down, sweet.
Okay, yeah. I'm starting to see why you're alone. Yeah.
So where can people catch you on your socials?
Sure. So I'm active on Twitter. My handle is Toussaint Douglass, because make yourself hard to search.
It's so difficult. Mm-hmm.
And then, as you mentioned, on Instagram, I'm new to the gram, fairly new. Just waiting to see if it would catch on. But I joined belatedly in lockdown, and I'm Toussaint_gram.
Black Ink Cinema is all about celebrating all things Black cinema. And like I mentioned earlier, you chose a film that I'd legit never heard of in my whole life. And it's a very interesting choice, Brother from Another Planet, starring Joe Morton.
Yeah.
Tell me why.
Came out of kind of, like when Get Out came out, and kind of everything around Get Out. And obviously it was an incredible film. And I think, like a lot of people, what I found so kind of impressive about it and so amazing was its use of like the horror genre to explore kind of race and racism and the Black experience. And I hadn't really, it felt so fresh. Like I hadn't really seen that being done before in terms of that kind of deliberate use of a particular genre, which you wouldn't maybe automatically associate with kind of Black cinema, Black films.
Especially in surviving throughout the film.
100 exactly, not dying in the first kind of 5 minutes exactly. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, one unfortunate brother does die in the first 5 minutes out, but
they kept the theme going there.
Yeah, we had to sacrifice one for the good of us all.
One for the team.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of like, I kind of came out of the cinema having watched Get Out and going like, this was amazing. I wonder if there were just any other films that were kind of quite like that in terms of using particular genres that you wouldn't maybe think of to explore things around kind of, issues around kind of race and racism and the Black experience and all that kind of stuff. So it was just Googling, and this film came up, and I thought, give it a spin.
Joe Morton, I associate him with being Papa Pope. I don't know if you ever watched Scandal, and he played Kerry Washington's dad, and he played this like real villainous character ahead of this like covert Black Ops type group that does crazy things. I mean, it seems far-fetched then, but watching what's going on now, not so far-fetched.
Yeah.
In reality, and also Miles Dyson in Terminator 2, who's the guy who created Skynet.
I knew where I'd seen him because he seemed really familiar, but I couldn't place his face. And it's Terminator 2. He the scientist dude. It's a great shout.
Were you impressed with his performance? Like, obviously playing a mute alien.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, I think to be honest, I think he's like the standout performance of the film. And he's got so much work to do because he's the main person in the film, the main character, the protagonist. He's in it all, pretty much all the way throughout. And as you say, kind of the plot is a very simple one, like almost deceptively so, in that it on the surface is just about a mute alien that lands on Earth. Which feels quite slight as kind of as a premise and stuff like that. And so for him, pretty much all of his, the whole of it, the job he has to do without talking. So you're placing so much on kind of your physicality and kind of non-verbal, that's coming out of your performance and stuff like that. It's in many ways, I feel like the premise is kind of like, I feel like they started with like, what would it be like if Mr. Bean was a blaxploitation film? Like that, I feel like that was like the starting point.
Mr. Bean! You pulled out Mr. Bean.
I love Mr. Bean.
You know what? Now you're saying that, I get it. Because there was some like really ditzy parts. Almost childlike parts in there. And what it reminded me of was Shape of Water, because she was a mute in that. And so it relied on just her performance and everything else around her. So in that sense, I think he did an amazing job, which is so difficult, like, you know, playing that role and able to carry the weight of the film on your back.
100%. I think he brings a lot to it in terms of like this performance and stuff like that. He's got kind of wonderful, like a comedic element to it. So there's kind of these like very wonderfully odd kind of comic flourishes, which he kind of brings to the characters. I remember this bit where he's like walking down the street, kind of, you know, in New York or, you know, Harlem, and he's, in one hand he's holding an apple, and in the other hand he's holding like a lettuce. And you're like, okay, so far so normal-ish. Like, you know, you could see a hipster doing that, maybe, like they were saving on plastic or whatever. And then he like holds the apple up and takes a bite, and like, okay, and then does exactly the same thing with the lettuce, and you're like, that is just hilarious. Like, that is just brilliantly odd, because, you know, you're like applying the logic to those two different items, and like that's not what you do, and that's just comedy. That's just comedy. So it's brilliant.
And you're probably like, why not? Why can't you eat a lettuce like that? Why not?
Exactly, yeah. It's that unexpected like application of that logic, making it very believable that he was just this like alien who kind of landed in Harlem and just happens to have the appearance of a black man. Which I think is like, it's that kind of ingenious addition to it of like, you know, what would happen if he was black? Like, you know, if E.T. was black, he wouldn't be landing in a leafy suburbs. He would landing in Harlem. Do you know what I mean? Like, Elliot wouldn't invite him in the house. He would like, he wouldn't
be allowed in the neighborhood. So
he would scream and call he wouldn't be, you know, Elliot wouldn't be hiding him in his bedroom. You know, he'd be calling the police. So
well. Yeah,
exactly. So I think it's great.
You see him kind of like breaking his firsts, and he has a sexual relationship, he takes drugs. I think also through the journey, he realizes he's black, because as you said, like, he lands, he's not a black man landing on Earth, he's just is. And then throughout his interactions with different people, he soon realizes that, actually, I'm a little bit, my demographic kind of fits here, and I'm treated a certain way, or looked at in a certain way. You see that when he sees the cop and he instantly runs away. This is before there's even that much interaction. And it's like, wow, even an alien.
Yeah, that was an interesting choice to make, because I think for me that was the one maybe kind of incongruous bit, like notably incongruous bit about kind of the plot and the character and what we're supposed to believe about him. Because for someone who had just kind of landed, because that was like straight out off the gates, like in the film, I think, where he just landed and he sees the police kind of officer uniform, and then he just like bolts and is like, well, I don't think you would know straight away that officer's like a threat, because then I think it's only kind of after that he then walks by and sees a white police officer kind of stopping and searching a young black man for seemingly no good reason, and it felt like it should be the other way around, really. Exactly. I'm a bit of a stickler for continuity, but I feel like you should have seen that first and then done that.
No, I agreed, and that's why I felt it was a little bit flawed in some of its
execution.
Yeah, because, you know, there's the part when he's steals the veg or whatever it is. If that had happened afterwards, then you'd understand why he's now fearful, because he was running away from the police, and now when he sees a police officer, he probably thinks he's going to be in trouble. So that would make sense. But for him to feel like that prior to any of those interactions was quite interesting. And race is pretty heavy throughout the film, written, directed by a white director, John Sayles, which I found quite interesting. What's your take on it?
I think construct that he's landed upon in terms of kind of the use of the sci-fi, well-established sci-fi trope of kind of an alien landing on Earth and giving it that ever so slight twist of the alien being black is a brilliant one for looking to explore kind of the kind of dynamics of kind of race and racism in America and the black experience. And I think kind of just the choice in making the alien, a black guy, kind of really brilliantly kind of brings to life the absurdity almost in kind of society's treatment of black people just because of something as inherently inconsequential as in of itself as skin color, because you're kind of, because you know that this person's not black and they haven't actually, or this being is not black and they haven't actually, you know, they don't come with any of kind of the baggage or the history or any of that, or kind of been drip fed why things are the way they are. They're literally just landed here and they're being treated a certain way, literally just because of their appearance. And so you can't kind of get away from or escape the absurdity of that and why that is. So I think in that respect, he landed upon a great kind of proposition for a film. I do think at times, I think for me, I love the idea of the film more than the execution. Like I think it is better than it's worth, than it's not. Like I think on balance, it's a good film, but it is kind of like a bit ropey and stuff. But hats off to him, because he, you know, the guy wrote it, he filmed it, he directed it, he edited it, he did everything. I think like in a month and stuff. So I'll give it to him. And also, I think a lot of I like how kind of Harlem is like almost the kind of secondary main character in the film, and I think he does a very good job in kind of bringing to life that kind of microcosm of kind of life in Harlem and the different various kind of communities in Harlem and social strata and people and stuff like that. And often the most convincing parts of the film are where he just focuses on some of the kind of conversations between, you know, just the actual kind of normal people in Harlem, like in the bar and stuff like that. And he lets those kind of old black guys talk and stuff. I think that comes off actually quite authentic and realistic. So I think he did a good job there.
I think trying to make Harlem everyday, like the everyday Harlem, and because obviously Harlem gets like a really bad, especially at that time, had a bad reputation of being dangerous. And I was reading an article that he was saying even some of his black crew had never been to Harlem prior to filming there. So who had been warned by their own family. Yeah. So I felt like that was quite interesting. So for him to pick that location to tell the immigration story through an alien, you know, it kind of put you in that unique experience of like trying to understand it from, oh my God, if I was just like dumped here, I wouldn't know what to do. I wouldn't know what the rules and regulations are. And you see him figuring that out. And it was funny to see the director, John, play one of the men in black, which I found those two characters hilarious. Like their movement was, it was too much.
Well, that was, I think one of the my favorite scenes was after the alien like lands on Earth and stuff like that, and for the most part his initial kind of experience is quite hostile outside, kind of out on the streets and stuff like that. His first kind of experiences with like a police officer and all that kind of stuff, and then he stumbles upon this like bar, which is a black-owned bar, and actually that's quite symbolic because that, you know, it's a space where the regulars in the bar can just be themselves, you know, are comfortable enough to be to feel exactly. It's a safe space. So it's a black space in that respect, and it's the first space where he's kind of treated a bit more with, I guess, a bit of kind of humanity and kind of warmth and all that kind of stuff in that respect. But then, so it's a black space, but then the two kind of white guys who it turns out that the brother from another planet, that the alien is actually on the run as well, because even in space the brother can't get any peace. So he's being
hunted down by two white guys. I was just like,
exactly. Yeah, he's being hunted by two white guys who are also aliens but are white.
Which he was like, we can be here but you can't. I just didn't understand why they were hunting him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's a good point, to be honest. And they come into the bar, and I think that it's just so funny on so many levels, because it's funny because they're like, when they're looking for him in the bar, they're physicality and their gestures are so exaggerated because they're like aliens, so they don't have that awareness, so they stand out immediately. But also they just stand out because they're just two white guys in a black bar as well. So they just stand out for that. Like they might as well be aliens, kind of in that respect. So that was like, that was very funny.
An interesting part that when I was speaking to Adam earlier mentioned that the Men in Black scenes, especially in the bar, was done going backwards. So they filmed them actually walking in backwards and everything. And that's why the movement is very weird and rigid.
Okay. All right. I did not know that.
And it makes sense because I was like, that movement is so, but they're really good actors. They're walking really funny.
That's a great bit of knowledge. You can tell who went to film school, can't we? Go on. Adam.
One of the worst bar fights I've ever seen on telly, or probably just in general fight scenes, was that bar scene when they're fighting the two guys.
Just for a start, as unrealistic that two white guys walking into a bar in Harlem are gonna overpower like 5 black dudes. It was just like, I don't care if you're an alien or you come from Mars or whatever, you're gonna get fucked up. Like, do you know what I mean? Like they're sending you home. I was like, and you could tell the actors were like, the black actors, like, really, we have to pretend like these two guys are gonna like do us in. Like, how like, I'm good, but I'm not that good. Like, how am I meant to pretend that this skinny guy, like 5'6",
like wench, in fit guy?
Because one of them was like, the guy who owned the bar looked like he could handle himself. You could tell. You could tell it when he was going in for it. It's like he was trying to hold back, but he was still like, still just take him. So it's quite funny.
How did you feel about having a white director write about this experience and obviously use a black lead? Did you think it would have been maybe executed a bit differently if it was written by a black person?
Yeah, I mean, undoubtedly, I think, just having films like, now that we have films like Get Out, and obviously kind of Black Panther and those films where it's about the black experience, not only about the black experience, but by black creatives as well, undoubtedly brings a whole kind of wealth and richness to what you're creating and how what choices you make as well in the films. So I think undoubtedly it would be a different film because I'm sure different choices would be made in that respect. And actually, I think it'd be interesting to have a kind of director like Jordan Peele remake it. I'd be really interested to see how he would kind of take that kind of concept and the subject matter. Because I think there's a great film within that film. But I think, you can definitely see, some of the dialogue is super clunky, and actually at times it's kind of closer to like Sesame Street. Like in terms of trying to like really like hit you over the head with like the important lesson that we're all meant to learn from this. Yes. Is that I remember there's like one scene.
Feel quite.
There was like a scene in the middle where the brother was just like sitting on the steps outside of like a brownstone apartment, and like a rookie cop kind of joins him. It's like his first day. He's like a white cop, and he's the cop's just like, well, we're all people, are just people, aren't we? And he's like, okay, we get it, not all white people are bad. Like, God, all right. But what I rated was that
it was
the
almost
brother
like
just walked
disclaimer
off. It's like you have to like balance out a bit with like one good white guy in the film. But I like that the brother was just like, I'm just not interested in this at all, and he just walked off. So I think the director was quite true to I think what it would be like is the experience that you would have as someone who is being treated a certain way because of just the color of your skin and stuff like that. In that it feels quite, I think Joe Morton was so great at kind of expressing kind of just a kind of bafflement about how everyone's kind of treating him. Because of just this kind of, because he looks black in that respect. And I think he doesn't like, he's magical. I don't want to give too much away, but he can kind of like do stuff with he's got like hands that light up and all that kind of stuff. But he's not like, the most magical Negro that has existed in film. Like, he's not like going around like saving white people and just there for the purposes of white to service white characters narrative. He is genuinely the protagonist within the film, and it is about his experience.
What I found quite funny was the fact that like he's just landed in New York, in Harlem, and he gets laid. Like, what kind of game has this guy got? Like, it was just easy, and he didn't have to say a word on top of that, and he's got weird feet. At no point are we addressing these feet situations. If we're getting in bed, she would have seen those. She wakes up the next day, no conversation of that. And that's when I knew this definitely was written by a man, because a woman would have highlighted all of that. All of that. Does it have the same bits? Like, it's like, let's not just jump to conclusions. He's literally an alien.
I mean, that is a very good point. It's a fantastic point, and one which, as a man, I had not fully kind of registered when I was watching the film about. But I mean, it probably is testament to the lack of good men in Harlem in the 80s that she felt like her best prospect was this quite
an alien that doesn't speak.
Yeah, an alien that has 3 toes. Yeah, that just thought, right, fuck it. It's just
so bad. I just thought that was very telling for me.
But I feel like because he didn't speak, actually, he was more attractive to her, because he just like, she didn't have to like listen to any bullshit.
100. Sometimes guys can talk themselves out of it.
Yeah. And he comes across as a good listener because he can't do anything else but listen.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things I did like about it as well, or made me laugh, should I say, was like, you know, when he walks past in the basketball court and then the guy's like, shoot, and then he like throws the ball and it shoots and he gets it in. It was like, even a black alien is good at basketball. I was like, you couldn't even you just had to bring in that stereotype of like, even a black alien is good at shooting.
Yeah, it's true. It made me think, is Barack Obama an alien? After having rewatched it, I was like, God, maybe Barack Obama's an alien.
He was so smooth in that clip. I'm not going to lie to you.
It was too smooth.
That was so smooth. And the way he just did it with so much swag, I was like, this is why. You're just too much. I can't.
And I'm also like, it does make sense that probably only an alien who looked black could become president in that country. Like, really, if you think about it, what other black person can become president in that country?
Yeah, 100%. I think I might join you with that conspiracy and jump on board with that.
I'm putting it out there. I'm going to put a YouTube video on tonight.
I'm going to start a new thread. The weird noises that the Men in Black made. Why? Why? I did like weird cat noises that would just...
I feel like that, you know, because it can be quite clunky, the film. I think it was like how do we make these very generic kind of looking white guys seem like an alien? And they were like, oh, let's just make them meow like a cat or something.
Let's just make them meow.
That was a creative choice the director made. I mean, he had a lot to do. He was writing it, he was directing it, he was editing it. Some things probably, you know, you had to give a little bit.
One of the scenes that I found quite gross was when he takes his eye out and just plops it in the plant pot and just leaves it there. And no one all day sees there's a whole eye in a plant pot. And then comes back. I was like, that's gross. That was pretty disgusting. I think... the fact that, because the last kind of 20 minutes of the film, the wheels do kind of come off the plot quite significantly, because it turns into like a Miami Vice-esque kind of like he goes on like a stakeout. The brother, he turns into like a detective, and then he like busts like he like busts like a drug ring and like tracks down like this seemingly respectable white businessman who actually, it turns out, is like flooding Harlem with like crack and stuff like that. But then he like, in order to try and make this
drug dealers see the errors of his ways, he like hands him his eye. It's like, you must see it from the black experience. Surely then you'll change your ways.
And is it my understanding that he kills that guy? Was that the assumption?
Either he kills him or he shows them a really good time by stuffing all those drugs in his face.
Yeah,
he just took the big bag and he just big bag of cocaine.
I thought he might have overdosed him with all of those drugs to kind of stop him, I don't know, distributing.
I think that was the idea. But to be honest, it wasn't clear enough. So it kind of felt like maybe the guy was just like having his cake and eating it. He was like, I've made all this money and now I'm going to take all these drugs.
Although the film was pretty one-dimensional, I did like the way it was filmed. It had that real gritty, grainy. I really felt the essence. I've never been to Harlem, but would like to go. But
it's great. It's great. You should go.
Yeah, I really felt the essence, and I guess that's testament to the cinematographer Ernest Dickerson, who also did the cinematography for Do the Right Thing and went on to direct Juice. He done an amazing job in kind of collaborating with director John Sayles and executing the essence, I guess, of everyday Harlem and making it look relatable. Like, we have normal people going to work, own businesses, who are just getting on with it. It was very much that. You
can tell that obviously he was very familiar with kind of Harlem, and I think how to kind of authentically kind of portray that part of the kind of New York City. It felt very true to kind of, you know, the kind of microcosm of what was going on in Harlem at that time, kind of in the 80s, and the different types of people. Like they covered a lot of ground, to be honest. You had kind of like the Chinese, you know, shopkeepers at the start, and then obviously you kind of had one of the characters worked be like kind of the job center here, I guess, in that respect, in terms of helping people to access kind of public services and the struggle that people were having trying to access, and the fact that, you know, it looked like they were kind of underfunded and overworked and all that kind of stuff, and then pivoted to obviously you know, problems with drugs in the community and the young people being affected by that, and then the struggling families, and so it covered a lot of ground in terms of the array of kind of supporting characters and cast, but it didn't feel kind of exploitative or kind of thinly sketched. Like it all felt quite believable, which I think actually was one of the strongest points of the film, was that actually the kind of the place where the brother was, you know, kind of what he was experiencing felt real. It felt like actually, you know, he had just landed in Harlem and this is what it was like and stuff like that, which I think is credit to the cinematographer and also John Sayles for the choices he made in terms of setting it in Harlem and stuff like that, and showcasing Harlem and using Harlem as kind of the microcosm of kind of the Black experience large, in terms of the kind of Black urban experience at that time in the 80s, because 84, so very much a time where there was a lot of kind of, you know, there were a lot of challenges being faced by those particular communities in kind of those socioeconomically kind of deprived areas in kind of urban inner city lives, and obviously the drug epidemic was pretty kind of rife at that time, and AIDS and all that kind of stuff.
I did like how they addressed the drugs. For a clever alien, like I was questioning it, like why did he end up taking the drugs? And I guess it was kind of to maybe understand why that kid took the drugs in the first place, and put himself in that shoes before he can kind of judge and say, well, this is bad, or whatever it might be, which I thought was quite insightful for a character. And then he went on this crusade of like stopping whoever is putting these drugs in the community, which I thought was quite honourable.
I think he was an intelligent being, but he was coming from a place of kind of almost like no judgments, or, you know, no kind of predispositions or assumptions and stuff like that. So he was literally learning and taking it all in as he was experiencing it, you know, time at the time and stuff like that. It almost kind of reminded me a bit of like how some actors choose to like play Doctor Who, where it's like that kind of dialing up, like they're super, you know, Doctor Who's like super intelligent, but also he can be like kind of super like, oh, what's this? And kind of like excited about things and wants to try things and like inquisitive more, I guess, like in that kind of respect. And like those, so like I feel like the brother was quite a very inquisitive character, and in a way, as you say, I think he wanted to kind of see for himself what is this thing that he had kind of secondary experience of seeing what it was doing to other people. Like why was it affecting so many people? Like why was it an issue? I think in that respect. I mean, I don't feel like, I feel like he probably could have just worked out without like shooting himself up with heroin. Like I'm not quite sure if he needed to like it was like, because he like took all the pills. He's like the kid had like loads of pills. So he like did all the pills, and he like and he didn't even wait like 5 minutes to see if it'd kick in. He's like, okay. Then he straight in with the needle and was like, God, he's really gone for it.
Yeah, he did.
But he didn't die. Spoilers, so don't worry. He
did all of those drugs and he was fine.
Yeah, he just had his shoes taken.
Yeah. And no one was like, what are those? Like literally, what are those on his feet? The other point, which I thought was quite interesting or a scene, was when he stays with that lady and she's got the biracial child, and there's a lot of conversation, well, one-way conversation that she has, and there's things that she's just like, it feels like a long monologue of stuff that she's just spewing out. But it's also significant. Everything that she's saying, she's talking about the father, and obviously there's this white lady bringing up a black child, and he's left his mother there. She's looking after his mother as well. Like they're all underneath one house. And I just felt like you don't often see that. I don't know. You don't often see that in films, maybe obviously now, but then especially like the representation of a biracial kid, you would usually see them with their black parent for some reason. You would just never really see the white parent like that. And I just thought that was a really endearing part of the film and kind of made it quite wholesome.
Yeah, I mean, lovely of her to look after the guy's mum. I don't quite know why she was doing that. I was like, your son's like fucked off. Like, why are you still here? Like, you know, unless, and the mum wasn't, the grandma wasn't even like doing childcare. So it's like, if you're not even doing childcare and you're insulting my cooking, like you can actually do one. Yeah. But yeah, lovely white lady. Little bit inappropriate in terms of just having those quite adult conversations about the kid's dad in front of the kid who was like 6. The kid didn't seem to mind, to be fair. The kid was just in front of the TV having a great time. But
the kid was mildly mute himself. I don't know if it just felt like the kid was an extreme introvert, and maybe that's why him and Joe got on. The brother got on, had a weird, nice connection.
So did you think the kid was an introvert?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, that's so interesting, because that was literally my childhood. So that's I guess I must have been an introvert.
So if you were to direct someone who hasn't watched Brother from Another Planet to YouTube and watch a clip to entice them, what clip would it be and why?
It's a really good question. The bar scene, the bar fight, because that is just, I think there's a lot of comedy in that bar fight.
I would probably say the first time he walks into the bar and he has those interactions with the guys and they're trying to suss him out, and there's just this real like barbershop banter between them, which I quite like. I think a lot of the humor either comes from the brother's physicality and kind of, you know, his kind of physical comedy, or it comes from mostly comes from the bar guys, the bar regulars. Like they have some cracking one-liners. I think there was one where the 2 white guys kind of were coming in when we're in the bar, and they were like trying to find him. The brother wasn't there. I think one of them goes like, you know, is like interrogating one of the black regulars and stuff. Is like, yeah, like asking him to almost like prove that he was like an American, like where's your ID? And I think the guy was just came back with like, green card, my black ass, like. And I thought that was that's an absolute bar. It's just like, I'm like. There was a lot of good one-liners in that.
You can literally look at my black ass to know that I'm an American. I built this country. I don't need an ID. my experience is my ID. And I thought that was a fantastic line.
Well, Toussaint, thank you so much for joining me on Black Ink Cinema Podcast. You have been a legend, educating me in a film that I was unaware of. And now it's ingrained in my head. Thanks for that.
No worries. Thanks for having me.